Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I extend a warm welcome to all our guests and attendees today for the fifth episode of the Digital Dialogues. This week's episode is titled Future of Trust Building Safe and Secure Organizations. We shall commence the event shortly. We have an interesting set of sessions and dialogues lined up for you today. Please use the chat functionality to ask questions, and our panel of subject matter experts will address them. We would also request you to kindly take a few minutes post the event to fill up the feedback form. Your feedback and recommendations are important for us to enhance future events for you. The first session is a business dialogue with Mr. Amit Dhawan, Chief Information Security Officer and Chief Data Protection Officer, Birlasoft, and is moderated by Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, Strategic. The segment is titled Making It Possible Safety and Security in Uncertain Times. Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Digital Dialogues. The truth is that trusted devices enable trusted data. In a global enterprise scenario that is perennially vulnerable to threats and attacks, organizations are realizing that the need of the hour is for solutions that provide for robust automated threat prevention, detection, and response capabilities. Modern work demands an equally modern approach to protecting the endpoint and the end user. Solutions that ensure artificial intelligence and machine learning infused threat detection and prevention are the clear mandates. This segment is titled Making It Possible Safety and Security in Uncertain Times. And I am in dialogue with Amit Dhawan, CISO and Chief Data Protection Officer, Birlasoft, to talk about the very future of trust. Amit, welcome. Privileged to have you here. We are delighted to have you with us. Thank you for joining us and making time out today.
Thanks a lot, Arjun. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And good day, everybody. Hope you are keeping safe and doing well during these times.
Indeed, indeed. Amit, I'm going to jump directly into it. The whole world, really, and industry is talking about data today. The capital and the potential that data has for organizations that are planning innovation, IP, and so on and so forth. Now, but if you think about it, a lot of data that is so precious continues to reside in local machines. Now, as a Chief Information Security and Chief Data Protection Officer, how do you kind of work this conundrum around? So you've got to have trusted devices, you've got to make the best use of data, but at the end of the day, what does a senior industry fellow as you are do?
To answer in a lighter note, yes, data is very important these days. To answer on a lighter note, before this COVID thing, I think we had about 10 officers. Now I have 10,000.
So true, so true.
Okay, so
I couldn't have put it better myself.
So every endpoint is a perimeter. It is the first line of defense, and it is the last line of defense. So it is becoming extremely crucial to ensure that data stays protected. We've been working on a lot of technologies and controls over the years, and actually they are now being tested in these times. Earlier, people used to go home. We know that they will come back to office. Their patches would apply, or all the controls will get updated. That's not happening now.
It isn't.
And unfortunately, we don't even know when they're going to come back. Okay, the situation is worsening. Yes, lockdown, no lockdown, opening of offices, but people are scared to venture out. Yes, manufacturing organizations, they have to come back. Essential services, they have to come back. But one thing that we are seeing in this IT services domain is that when work could happen over computers at home, why do we need to come to office? So that mindset is also impacting us as a security professional. That when do we have more control on our systems?
Indeed.
So it is scary, it is challenging, but I think now with about 90 days into this, we know where we are heading, and there are different kind of strategies or workarounds or innovative ideas are coming in to help us on that.
Now, I love the way you mentioned from moving from 10 officers to 10,000 officers. Now, increasingly, when we look at the future of work, Amit, we're also looking at the gig economy. We're also looking at digital talent that is keen on working, agnostic of space and time. A millennial workforce really that gives as much credence to flexibility and convenience as it does to compensation, and often willing to trade flexibility, convenience, and the luxury of working from anywhere, willing to trade that with compensation levels, even coming at salary cuts, so long as they don't need to physically move on. How do you see the whole concept of security architectures that were classically designed for the four walls of an office, really? How do you see that kind of manifesting and transforming itself?
So actually, COVID has nothing to do with this direction,
True,
because
true.
this had started a couple of years back, and that is how the two main biggest technology developments also took place: mobility and cloud. Okay, so as people started moving into these directions, it became easy to work from anywhere. It became easy to work on multiple things.
Yeah.
And that also set different challenges uh, to the service providers, to the organizers, and even to the tool providers, the technology providers.
Correct.
You need to look into this. So uh, though the concept is good, it's more about development of trust on that. So a person, a youngster, though he's capable of working on multiple things, he picks up a small project. Maybe one project is on a software development issue. He wants to develop his skills on the governance, risk, and compliance. So he works on specific tools for one company and works on Excel sheets, or maybe some kind of metric stream, Archer, etc. for another company. The problem is both these data, that separate sectors of data that he touches, are customer data.
Yeah.
They are crucial for the company. Leakage of that data could impact the financial viability of that company.
Indeed, indeed.
So the technology has to be strong enough to ensure that that person is able to work on both these directions, and the companies are also ensuring that the data stays protected. So as we moved into cloud and mobility, about 10-15 years back, slowly the development of tools, the initial element that came up was remote desktops. Then they moved into virtual development, virtual desktops. Now VDIs, now Amazon, Azure, both of them have that. So these technologies are helping people work with different companies at the same time. These were expensive. Now they're becoming pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Like Amazon gives it at $30 for Microsoft Windows 10. And that is retail price. Like if I go to Amazon with 10,000, probably they'll give it much cheaper.
Sure.
So that coupled with certain tools, which we have seen recently on the physical security element, okay, they become pretty crucial. Like the data, I can protect it from a technology standpoint for being moved out, but I cannot prevent somebody taking a photograph of the screen, okay, and then doing an OCR later and extracting that data. So there are tools that have already come in during this period, which throw an alarm as soon as two heads come in front of the screen. Okay,
oh, wow.
The screen goes
interesting.
blank.
Interesting.
Oh yes, I've seen those tools at work. You bring up a device or a phone, the AI element reads that it's a phone, the screen goes blank, or it raises an alert.
Wow.
So with virtual desktops, with workspaces, etc., coming in, along with these tools coming in, the data stays protected. Okay. In fact, we are presently looking at, we had these issues of a lot of subcontractors or something. We've started installing our tools on them.
Okay.
We've started installing our tools on them. They are an extended arm of the company.
True.
So to protect customer connections, to protect our interests, we are willing to spare that license for that particular period of time to ensure that our data doesn't go out.
Yeah.
And we've included from a contractual standpoint, we've included privacy clauses. We've brought in the kind of fear of God in him, that if you do something it'll be tough to escape us and all that stuff. So nothing on the threatening sort, but some kind of a deterrent from an academic perspective. Deterrents always help in some percentage, maybe if not in all, but they definitely help.
In fact,
And
it's interesting that you should say deterrent, because there's a very old saying, and it kind of came to me, is that there are two kinds of organizations in the world. The first kind is those who have had their security breached, and the second who don't know that they've had their security breached. How
absolutely.
how do you kind of in this kind of a scenario where, and I remember the last time we met physically, of course, when we had the opportunity to, you said I've always got to stay one step ahead. Uh, how do you kind of architect or fashion in that kind of a change scenario a robust security and compliance architecture or a strategy or a policy really?
That's a very interesting question, and uh, you cannot build a security architecture in the company without having a strong security culture in the company.
Indeed.
Okay, so you can put any number of controls, but if people are not interested or people are not worried, uh, people are not scared, uh, nothing would move. Okay, so you have to uh, take security in a practical way that people are able to work, they are able to meet their contractual obligations, whilst remaining safe as much as we can, and then keeping your fingers crossed.
True. Which is where I think the whole concept of experience also plays a very important point. Is that how do you fashion a strategy that ensures that employee experience is not hampered beyond a certain point by excessive security protocols in place?
Uh, to put it very simply, you have to understand what they are doing, what the employees are doing, what different accounts are doing, how far uh, is the data security important to them. So there is a basic threshold or level of controls that you can put, and uh, add more elements to it. But as the severity or as the trust or as the assurance of the customer goes higher, uh, the employees understand, because they go through that on a regular basis, and they support you in implementing those security measures. See, because you are helping them achieve their work properly,
Correct.
okay, achieve their targets. uh, you provide a assurance to the customer, so that has slowly becoming more into the job profiles, that started getting added more into the job profiles of CISOs, that we are talking to the customers CISOs or
Mm-hmm.
their CIOs, and assuring them that yes, we've taken these controls. Somebody taught me once that though you have to be good, but you have to show that you're good.
Indeed.
Okay,
Indeed.
you have to work, but you have to show that you are working. Okay, so don't take somebody else's credit
No,
on a
no,
separate
no.
note, but
Certainly not. Certainly
but
not.
but so when you're working, you have to keep the business, the kind of delivery that we do in mind, and talk in that language to the customers, that yes, we are ensuring that your work is done. This is what I am doing. And I have seen in my experience, honesty helps. Blunt honesty helps. You say, I can do this, I cannot do this. This is a risk which will remain open. Take a call. Okay, and they are happy to go along with your gut feeling, because you're on ground and working on that.
True. So true. So true.
So you have to put controls both from a technology perspective. You have to put controls both from a administrative managerial perspective. But you need to have the right security culture in the company.
Which brings
Okay.
me interestingly to the next question, Amit, which is the whole concept of the future of trust, the future of security, the transformation of security by itself. I understand very clearly from where you're coming from is that if organizations and enterprises want to transform the very manner in which they approach security, endpoint security included, one of the most important pillars is a culture. is that culture needs to be embedded at the very fabric of the organization or the enterprise for it to really succeed. What, according to you, are two other or maybe other critical pillars that organizations or the audience that's listening to us really today should focus on with the immediacy of time to be able to truly work towards a secure, modern environment?
So there is a huge buzzword these days called zero trust. Okay. Implementing it from a technology perspective is a nightmare. But what you can do is uh, profess that kind of zero trust in the organization. Like very simple steps, do not give too many privileges to people to play with on their machines. It's a very simple thing. It's a hygiene thing.
Correct.
Harden the endpoints, remove USB access, mass storage. People have a lot of ideas. People have a lot of use cases. You give them options of cloud-based technologies. You give them options to, of not using that at all, and they're happy to use it, provided their work gets done.
Absolutely.
So if they work, whitelisting few things, you can. Though I cannot, give you a fixed laundry list of things to be done, but what I can understand is having technology controls, remediation of vulnerabilities, ensuring that they stay safe. We are able to reach the machine and solve their problems and mitigate those vulnerabilities, whatever it is. Identity access management should be very, very strong. You don't know where people are logging in from, what
Indeed.
they're doing. Hardening, I've already mentioned, and human firewall is what we call internally, and culture. So these are 4 or 5 things that we try to do to hopefully stay safe.
So I'm going to therefore come to you with another question, which I personally am very curious and intrigued in order to find out. Now, Amit, you're somebody who has an immense amount of experience in domain and matters related to security. Now, one of the key points, of course, is that we don't know what's going to hit us next. That's a fact. However, with the benefit of hindsight, what are the kind of security risks that you can foresee becoming perhaps more advanced, such that our audience today that's listening to us and for the wider industry at large, we are able to pick up the experiences from the past, boil them and say, look, broadly, this is where I think security risks are perhaps the maximum. How would you kind of boil your vast experience over the last, I wouldn't say very many years back, because of course, everything has changed. But if you look at the last couple of years, and we've heard multiple issues, how would you kind of boil that down to prepare for the future, an uncertain future?
So, interestingly, when I speak to my operations team, the security operations folks, and when I interview a lot of folks, I ask people how to steal.
Wow.
Okay.
And that's a question I've never been asked in my career, of course.
So, how would you steal something? And what would interest you to steal? Okay. That is the threat that you have. It is simple. It is money.
Yeah.
It is, some kind of a publicity, or a hatred that you can say to bring somebody down. Only 3 things matter to a thief.
Indeed.
So all the threats of how do you achieve those 3 things come from all the things that you want to do evolve from those 3 things, and technology brings out the vulnerabilities.
It does.
Okay. The ability to work from home, the ability to work from a coffee shop, the ability to work from a phone, they are the new technology things that are there. So people will hack into your systems to either for money, that is they'll steal your data, have ransomware installed in that.
Correct.
Or they want to show off on dark web, deep web, that I'm a big guy, or as we are seeing it now, the international status, and there are attacks, state-sponsored attacks. which will
Indeed,
disrupt your
indeed.
service. So these are these are the three things, and technology brings out the vulnerabilities. People are looking for those three things, and that's how there is nothing else that you have to do. So you have to keep looking at the new technologies, looking at how you can get hacked, and start preparing or trying to stay a step ahead.
So now, Amit, you early on during this dialogue and this conversation, you mentioned a very innovative thing about if two heads were to kind of pop up in front of the screen or a mobile phone were to pop up. What kind of innovation, and this is for the larger audience as well as for me personally, what kind of innovation in security do you think is going to be required for the future? If you were to be able to expand all the knowledge and the insights that you have and the experience that you have, what kind of innovation would you recommend and urge industry, startups, and so many other companies to kind of bring up?
Uh, at a broader level, again talking about two concepts of stealing and the hyper-converged network that we
Yes.
have of data and ensuring trust. So one is a mindset of requiring a security,
Mm.
which is important. Second is looking at maybe the people who are working on this as our partners, as technology partners. They need to start working on a concept which kind of you know brings in multiple things in one tool itself. Okay. As of now, we have 3-4 tools. The security teams keep juggling between all 3-4 tools. It becomes extremely difficult for people to manage. So you have, we had this endpoint protection platforms. Slowly that moved into the EDRs and the MDRs. Now EDRs are also evolving and including multiple technologies. So uh, the lesser interfaces for people to see, the better. Uh, Lesser trust between different connection points. When we say a complex ecosystem, we're looking at applications, we're looking at microservices, cloud-based,
Correct.
working out of laptops, working out of mobile phones. So, everybody wants a seamless experience, but from a security standpoint, a lot of things converged into one. A lot of things having the capability to be getting converged into one.
Mm. Mm.
There are a lot of people say that yes, my tool speaks to multiple tools, but there are so many restrictions. Data size should not be more than 50 MB. It has to be only using this. This is a paid service, so it becomes a nightmare. Even after doing POCs, it's a nightmare to integrate different tools. And you try, one of the important parameters in your thought is to buy only from one company. At least they'll talk to each other. Okay,
Absolutely.
so the partners need to start working on some kind of a digital trust between different technologies, so that we can exchange the data, take out the same intelligence, and help each other looking at different verticals.
So you spoke about, Amit, the whole concept of the zero trust game. When you look at the security architectures of the future, do you feel that organizations are going to start from that premise of not trusting anything at all? Or do you think it's going to be slightly more democratic in its nature?
No, you need it to be implemented properly. You it 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 is a mandate. uh, in my training days, I used to take people, when I used to train people, I used to take them to the physical scenarios or the guest lectures that I used to give in different places. uh, we keep telling our kids not to eat from anybody, unknown person in the market,
Absolutely, absolutely.
uh, anybody. So I used to tell them that if I put a McDonald burger station outside, how many of the school kids will go and eat burgers outside? None. you know but we are happy to pay hundreds of bucks in a shop. So we do not trust in physical domain. Why do we trust in digital domain? Why should a system trust anybody else implicitly?
Correct.
Okay. So this is, when we say security by design, when we say privacy by design, these are the elements that come up. Okay. And this is where we need to work, that we should not be trusting. So how do you build your boundaries? Okay, so those boundaries should be, when a product comes out of the box, those boundaries should be closed. We should be opening those boundaries on demand. Unfortunately, for simplicity, the boundaries remain open for most of the systems.
Indeed. Indeed.
And you don't know which one to close. You buy a house, the windows and doors are closed, right? You never go into a house which a dealer takes you in with all doors and windows open. Okay, and he says, create a door wherever you want to. It doesn't work like this.
It doesn't work like
It
that.
doesn't. So why should it work in digital products and in digital technologies? So it has to start from zero trust. And then you open doors to different tools, to different databases, one application talking to another application. Why should there be implicit connections permitted by default? So,
so Amit, therefore, if if you were to kind of bring all of this together and couple the entire mechanism, we've got a brilliant audience listening to us today. What would be your essential guidance to them as they sit down to craft a robust, strengthened security architecture? What would you guide them towards?
I think one is to have very clear understanding of technology. How one packet speaks to another packet, or how an application talks to each other. Because unless people have that, you can spend your life and you'll not understand how things are working. So one is invest in learning the basic nuances. If you have, if you get them right, then you can build on the model of understanding what are your security requirements. Okay, we keep talking business. Every security course, first thing it starts is understand your business. Now, I am not interested in what tools that person is using, but what I'm trying to understand is how that person connects to the internet,
Yes.
how that person connects back into the office. What is, from a privacy hat, what is the data that he has access to? Is the data getting stored on his computer, not getting stored on his computer? If it is getting stored, is the data getting backed up? So very, very smaller things, and then you build threads on that to define a high level architecture as to where you want to go. Understanding technology, understanding basics of technology, which haven't changed in the last 25, 30 years. Understanding new technologies as to how these are working. You can connect the dots and create some kind of a roadmap for you. And again, keep your fingers crossed even after that, because you don't know.
You don't know what's going to hit you tomorrow.
10,000 offices. Can you reach any office? You do phishing simulation. There are some 40 people who have clicked on the link and have given you, their user ID and password. You don't need 40. You need 1 or 2.
Yeah. You don't need 40. So, Amit, I do have a view on the clock, and I don't know that you have a hard stop in about 5 minutes. So I'm going to ask you 2 quick questions. When you look at the future, if we are able to, I mean, even if that is even a term, really, but when you look towards the future, how do you see the concept of future of trust getting defined?
I think it is, we have to take that physical trust into the digital trust. And sorry for repeating this, but when we look at trust between systems, between applications, between data, and all those places, uh, it's a very, very crucial thing to see, because in case even one tool or one system gets compromised, the whole connectivity chain gets impacted. It might not be from a security element. It might be from a working element as well.
Indeed,
okay.
Indeed.
Uh, we recently, read that a guy who had taken picture somewhere, he modified that picture with some tool unintentionally, and when people downloaded onto their Android phones, the phones crashed.
Ouch.
Okay, and it happened, and that guy said, I didn't know what I've done. He was not a hacker. He didn't do anything. He just used one of the tools to made some minor changes, and that bit byte of the picture image uh, had an impact on the software which was using it on Android phones,
That is
and they
painful
crashed.
indeed.
So the trust is from a security standpoint, but it led to, it was not a security incident, but it led to DOS if you look at it. So
Yes.
people were not able to work. So even the trust has to be important. You have to work with zero trust. Implementation is very difficult. It is very tough, but we have to move in that direction.
So, Amit Dhawan, what keeps you awake at night, if it does, from a security perspective, for Birla
uh,
Soft, for your organization?
so security is one element that keeps me awake, definitely. Second is uh, I'm little hungry for understanding the technologies of the world. Uh, so I'm very keen to learn whatever buzzwords people are talking all around, whatever new offerings come with the tool. In fact, one of the sales guy introduced me to one a startup, not a startup anymore, who are using AI ML, and we started discussing the models. And that sales guy said, you are two techie guys who are talking. The CEO was a techie guy, and we went on to the Mitre model. We went on to how this is getting exploited in the memory. What are you using? And it was a fantastic conversation. So that is what keeps me awake and hungry to learn more. I don't believe in gizmos of the world, but I believe in how those gizmos are working.
Indeed, so
So,
true.
so that is what keeps me awake. As I mentioned, whatever I'm talking is what I practice. Understand the very
Absolutely.
basics, understand the new technology, look for how things can be stolen out of it.
So true.
Okay.
And in conclusion, Amit Dhawan, I must ask you, if you were to look at the last 90 days, uh, how would you classify your one biggest learning? We'd like to know the man behind the technology too.
uh, Actually, the biggest learning that has come out of it is on the business continuity planning and disaster recovery. I have thrown my BCP plan outside the window. I've done that, and it is becoming a nightmare for me to convince my team to come out with a plan.
Indeed, I
Okay,
can understand.
the complex business impact assessment, calculation of RTO, calculation of RPO, coordination with different people, that's all gone. And I'm telling people, start afresh and start thinking, how would you do your BCPDR? So
Indeed.
maybe the new elements that are coming up is, do you need more money for people to be given better Wi-Fi at home?
Yeah,
That is becoming a BCP element now, actually.
indeed.
How do you, from an HR perspective, how do you keep people happy during this time? Because a lot of people are stressed.
Yes, yes.
So probably those are the learnings. Nothing from a technology standpoint, unfortunately, but process standpoint. So BCP, everything is possible. We moved desktops to people's houses. We implemented controls on them. We did something for a BFSI customer now in their major migration
Oh,
from
wow.
home,
Oh, brilliant.
and those guys were surprised that we've done it, and they said you have to get systems back to office. We said nothing doing. I'm doing it this way. They're happy with it. So huge saving just because I understood what was the requirement and how we could do this.
Indeed.
And because of learning new things, so it became a kind of a fantastic kudos to the team
Indeed.
who
Indeed.
who
So,
did this. Learning is process. BCP is out of the window. I'm now challenging my team. Can you check with the standard? I hope you're not going against the standard,
correct.
so that I don't fail my ISO audit. So
No, but that is
I,
so true. That is so true. But thank you so much, Amit. And that I know you have a hard stop, and that pretty much is what we have time for. I can say with a supreme level of confidence that and guarantee that I stand significantly enriched by having spoken with you. Thank you so much for making it for the digital dialogues today.
thanks a lot, Arjun, and thanks for getting those juices flowing in thinking, and while talking, I've gained few things. Probably I'll use them going forward. So
Indeed, sir. Very, 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 very kind of you to say that. Thank you, folks. That's pretty much for this segment. Stay tuned. We'll be back with the next segment shortly. Thank you, Mr. Dhawan, for your candid views and for sharing your experiences around architecting viable business outcomes and ensuring endpoint security. The next section is a keynote by G.R. Balaji, Product Marketing Leader for Unified Workspace at Dell Technologies.
Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to you all. Thank you so much for watching this. We are here today to talk about a digital workspace of the future, how we can enable and create a secure and modern workspace. With that, let's jump right ahead. By way of quick introduction, my name is J.R. Balaji. I am the Senior Manager of Product Marketing at Dell Technologies Unified Workspace. I want to begin by making this statement that security can no longer be an afterthought. It has to be intrinsic to the IT infrastructure. If you really look at the evolution of cybersecurity in general, and more specifically endpoint security, several years ago, it was designed really to work and address the perimeter centric world. Most users were within the confines of the office, behind the firewall. About 8 to 10 years ago, or even slightly prior to that, the industry started undergoing quite a bit of shift. Things were getting modern, users were working very differently than prior to that. All this basically led to what we now popularly call as the movement, which is the workforce transformation movement. So, what is workforce transformation? Now, if you look at the internet, you will get half a dozen different definitions of workforce transformation. But the sum and substances of all of that is that when organizations enable their end users to have access to data and applications from any location that they choose to access from, on any device of their choice, and really be able to access and share and collaborate on all the information and really thrive in that process. But while doing all this, staying supremely secure. That's really the ultimate vision or goal that most organizations are marching towards. With that said, like I said, about 8 to 10 years ago, this entire paradigm shift started happening. And the fact that users were always confined within the perimeter started getting challenged. As you can see on this particular slide, data is no longer on a computer we own or a network we control. That is the new paradigm. And it, of course, did not happen overnight. It has continued to evolve over the last 8 to 10 years. Now, taking from that statement that I just made, we can no longer rest on the fact that we have solved for the cybersecurity challenges that exist today. We also have to stay a step ahead and see how we can prepare organizations better for the attacks that are coming. Now, we did this very recent survey with Forrester with our customers, and even we were quite surprised to find that nearly 63% of the companies that we surveyed experienced some sort of a data breach or a compromise, primarily by bad guys exploiting vulnerabilities from an hardware or a silicon, firmware, and BIOS, and so on and so forth. That was an unknown threat vector. Even till about a couple of years ago, bulk of the threat vectors were focused on malware and phishing, and to some extent, social engineering. So, how can we better prepare organizations to not only stop those traditional attack methods, but also these emerging attack methods? Now, one recommendation that we always have for organizations is to look at the to frameworks in cybersecurity. The NIST cybersecurity framework is the most popular of all. It's been around for a while, and it very comprehensively gives organizations various aspects of cybersecurity that they need to look for and solve for. Now, we also have other examples like MITRE ATT&CK framework, which also gives organizations a very neutral way of assessing their security posture versus how the security threat landscape itself is evolving. Now, diving more specifically into the endpoint security, and as I said here, the attacks just don't come from phishing and malware anymore. As you can see from the examples here, you look at all the different layers of the end user computing infrastructure, starting all the way from supply chain to data and applications. And through this entire process, there are so many different methods and points of exposure that the adversaries can exploit. So therefore, when we look at the endpoint security from a Dell's perspective, we call it the trusted device portfolio. We look at the comprehensive set of layers on the right that you see from supply chain to the data. But we address that by building both Dell unique capabilities on the hardware, which is not something that the software players focus a lot on. But we also layer on top of that an extensive set of partnerships, both within Dell Technologies through the VMware and Carbon Black and SecureWorks, and also with valued partners such as Absolute and Netscope. With a combination of a portfolio like this, we are able to comprehensively address any sort of points of exposure that might exist within the end user computing infrastructure. But I would say this though, that while we make this attempt, our intention is that these are not silos of tools or capabilities that we are devising to help customers, but also integrate all these different tools and their ability to share telemetry and share information so organizations have better preparedness, faster discovery of threats, and a better response. Now, this is, in summary, the Dell Trusted Devices portfolio. As you can see, we have 6 different categories. Below the line is the below the operating system layer, where we have Safe ID for protecting user credentials, Safe BIOS for protecting against all the BIOS and firmware level attacks that might happen, and also Safe Screen, which gives you privacy screens and camera shutters and so on and so forth. Above the line, above the operating system, we also have 3 different categories. We have Dell Safe Data, which is all about protecting the data that resides either on a device or on cloud. You have Safeguard and Response, which is the portfolio consisting of VMware and Carbon Black, which is really designed to prevent complicated and sophisticated external threats, as well as more common commodity malware that organizations face. And last but not the least, a very important component of the digital workspace is the VMware Unified Workspace product or a solution that provides organizations like this single pane of glass to access and work on their workspace, being able to single sign on and having better threat telemetry. Now, diving a couple of clicks deeper into the below the operating system space. Again, I will not go through every single item mentioned here, but I would leave with the fact that we want to create the ability to prevent, detect, and respond to threats below the operating system with the same level of variety and sophistication that we now provide above the operating system. So all of these tools and capabilities are designed so that organizations have that same level of visibility to threats that are lurking below the operating system. Um, The other important shift that is happening, and I made a mention to this early on, with cloud adoption, which is already increasing and dramatically accelerated with the emergence of with the COVID situation, you will see that there are nearly 2,400 plus cloud services and large enterprise has access to. And the most startling fact is a lot of these are not IT controlled or IT led. Only 2% of them are IT controlled. The rest is end user controlled. So again, talking to customers like you, we realize that 93% of the organizations are extremely concerned about cloud security in general. Now, this is from an endpoint security perspective, but the reality is that in the increasingly interconnected world we all live in, a variety of devices, ubiquitous computing, organizations can no longer afford to be only focused on endpoint and endpoint security and then focused on network security as kind of its own thing. We talk about this from we call it intrinsic security, and we refer to these 5 security control points. The 5 security control points are endpoint, identity, workload, cloud, and network. Now, they're all interconnected. Oftentimes, when an attack or a cyber incident happens, it can originate on the endpoint and transition over to a network or a cloud, or vice versa. How can we give organizations a level of interconnectedness and sharing of telemetry between these 5 security control points so they can see and act against threats in a better and a faster manner? That is an essential component of our strategy going forward. VMware calls it intrinsic security, where the aim is to integrate all these different tools that I talked about in the prior slides and share telemetry so that organizations are not crippled by having siloed pieces of information. Now, this is also a topic that is close to my heart, and it's very critical that organizations face. Now, every organization is different. They all have IT and security departments. In some organizations, these are all under the same team. Sometimes they are different teams. But no matter the structure, organizations use different tools between these two teams. And there is not a level of interconnectedness and sharing of telemetry that exists today between IT and security to better solve these security challenges. Again, going back to the previous slide, the aim of the intrinsic security infrastructure is that we provide a set of tools that are less resource consuming, easy to deploy and manage, fewer tools, the better, instead of having too many tools that can be taxing on your system resources. And while you do all that, we also want to collect all that information and bridge the gap between IT and security organizations so they can share telemetry. They can be uh, joint at the hip in trying to solve these security challenges. But I want to also leave you with this thought towards the end that it's not just about tools anymore. As I said, it's really about the telemetry. Um, I believe sincerely that the organizations that are going to win the next wave of cyber attacks are the ones that are not just are better at building a set of tools, but organizations that can better integrate these tools, manage telemetry, have that cross-functional visibility, and take faster action. And that is what is going to make a difference between an organization that is stopping a data breach versus the organization that is not able to stop the next data breach from happening. I want to leave you all with this final thought in terms of having listened to the last 15 minutes or so in how the security industry itself has evolved and what kinds of tools and techniques exist out there, and the Dell Technologies point of view in solving for those. But these are 5 very simple steps that I believe every organization can take. First and foremost, identifying and assessing risks. Before you jump ahead and add a couple of more tools into your basket of tools, it's really important to identify and assess your overall risk. Dell offers assessment services. There are other third-party tools as well. So I would start there. The next step is to really reassess your security architecture. Every organization is unique. You want to be able to weigh your security risk versus your business priorities and so on and forth. Then comes the point of establishing your security posture. Now, I have capitalized the word your for the simple reason that, again, as I said earlier, every organization is unique. The same set of tool sets one organization sees and uses is not necessarily the best for the other organizations. So really assessing your risk, where your priorities lie. Most importantly, no organization has unlimited budget. So taking account of budget and your priorities, you will have to build your own security posture, but you're not in that alone. Companies like Dell Technologies are there to really help you. The fourth bullet is something that I talked extensively in the last couple of slides around the broader visibility. It's no longer to have tools that are siloed and are only looking at one aspect of your infrastructure or end user computing layer. You need to have broader visibility across the endpoint layers from supply chain all the way to data and applications. But in addition to that, you also want to have the cross spectrum visibility across network, cloud, and the other security control points I referred to. And last but not the least, we recognize that there is nearly a 4 million labor shortage as it stands today of qualified and trained cybersecurity analysts. So you're not in this alone. Definitely feel open to seek outside help. SecureWorks is an organization under Dell Technologies that has 20 years of deep expertise and a deep bench of experts that have been doing this for a living for many, many years. There are organizations such as SecureWorks that are there to help be those extra set of eyes and ears on the ground to really help you combat these modern cyber threats. With that, thank you so much for your patient listening. I hope this was beneficial, and we certainly hope to engage with you moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Balaji. The next segment is a business dialogue with Rajinder Bedi, Technical Solutions Specialist for Intel India and APJ, and is moderated by Arjun Vishwanathan. Hello and welcome back. We are now in episode 5 and the last segment where I am in conversation with Rajinder Bedi, Technical Solutions Specialist, Intel, India and APJ. Rajinder, delighted that you could join us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Arjun. Thanks for having me today.
Lovely.
Appreciate.
Rajinder, we just heard in the previous segments how both Amit Dhawan, who's the Chief Information Security and Data Protection Officer for Birlasoft, as well as Balaji, kind of speak about the whole concept of endpoint security. Now, it's no surprise that the endpoint is the first and the last line of defense. Now, in that kind of a scenario, how challenging does it become for folks such as yourselves who are right in the center of curating and designing innovative solutions to enhance security? How do you kind of look at it from Intel's point of view?
Correct. So I think I completely agree with the assessment of our guest earlier that securing an endpoint is utmost important for any organizations because your endpoint is basically your entry to any of the data center where you could have all your IPs residing over there. So, and if you see most of the attacks which happens in the market are all client centric. So they go and try to take control of your client machines, try to theft your identity so that they can gain access to the data, whether it's in a client or in your data center. So in nutshell, it's important to go and protect your client machines as important, maybe even more than protecting your data centers, right? Now, from Intel side, what we are trying to do is trying to get the security at a hardware level, right? If you go and look at any security studies which these companies publishes, right? Most of the attacks actually goes and happens on the applications and an operating system levels. And there are very few attacks which goes and try to access the hardware. However, the trend is continuously on rise. The issue is if somebody gets an access to a hardware, then it becomes very difficult to go and find those kind of attacks
So
using
true.
applications or those kind of a solution. So it becomes very important to go and protect your hardware. And to do that, we are trying to put the security level right at the hardware level so that you build the trust at the hardware itself and make sure your operating systems, your applications are running on a clean hardware rather than spurious things which has already happened to it. So we have a product called Hardware Shield, which is a part of Intel hardware. So it provides a different level of security levels to an enterprise and their users, right from protecting the BIOS, which is the basic component for any PC, and it controls all your functionality of your PC. So protecting that BIOS to the level of making sure that the antiviruses which the users are running are actually not impacting their productivity. So making people not to compromise on the productivity level is also very important to make sure that the clients are secure, because if the people are feeling a load of those things on the client machine, the chances are they will not go and protect their machine. So we are trying to make the things easier by putting more and more security and speed technologies on a hardware itself, so that people uses it and makes their client more secure comparatively.
Interesting. Rajendra, now tell me something. What I also wanted to understand was, now with an emerging trend of the gig economy, remote working, we've of course seen the lockdown that's happened over the last 3 odd months now. Uh, and with increasingly the workforce, employees, contractors kind of working agnostic of space and time, uh, does that kind of make security more challenging, endpoint security more challenging to the largest degree?
Oh, absolute, Arjun. It's a great question and very relevant in today's scenario, right? Where unfortunately we are forced into this situation, but it looks like probably it's going to be norm as we move forward.
True, true.
Right? And it becomes very challenging, not only for a large enterprises, but even for a smaller scale enterprises also, to make sure that their employees remains productive and are not subjective to the hackers, the attacks, which are kind of increasing in last few months just because of the whole work from home wave, which has took over the whole world.
Yeah.
And the trend is across everywhere, right? Not only in India. So yeah, it makes pretty challenging for any enterprises. So in my view, security has to be at the top of the mind of any CIOs or CISOs of the organization. And it has to start right from the top and then flow it down right to the user level. And the decision has to be made at every level when you're trying, even when you're taking a decision to procure what kind of a hardware you need to buy for your organizations, what should be the security policies for your organizations, how are you going to operate in a work from home environment. And I think the last and probably the most important point is, look, you can put all the securities, all the technologies in force, but there will be a day when something will happen, right?
Oh, yes, indeed.
And to be really frank, if you're going to take a huge time to recover from those situations, it's going to impact the productivity. And we have seen people, actually the organizations going bankrupt because of those kind of
That is so
disruptions.
true.
Correct. So you want to have a recoverable capability also built in a work from home kind of scenarios. So it's the point which I'm trying to say is it's a holistic view which a CXO level need to take from a security level, and maybe put the work from home into more consideration, as probably we did in the past, and then start building that mindset right from a top level to a user level, to make sure that the security is an important aspect when you're designing your overall infrastructure.
Very interesting. Now, I do have a view on the clock, and I know you do have a hard stop. But the whole concept of how data monetization is going to be the next new transformation wave.
Correct.
But with so much data continuing to reside in local machines, how are you working with the folks at Dell and Microsoft together to come across with solutions that enable organizations to protect that data? Because data is equal to IP is equal to monetization opportunity. And if that is lost, like you rightly said, companies not only go bankrupt, but there's also the risk of brand loss. So how do
Absolutely.
you guys kind of come together and fashion innovation?
Absolutely. Great question once again, Arjun. So it actually takes multi-year efforts to come up with the technologies and trying to put it on a hardware. So this effort actually started quite a long time back, and we work very closely with the OEMs like Dell to make sure that their platform has the ingredients which are required by the enterprises to put those security technologies into the hardware. So we start working with the OEMs like Dell to make sure they have a relevant components as part of their portfolio, as part of their client PCs. And then we expose those components to an ISV like Microsoft so that they can build their operating systems and the features which goes into the operating system to take advantage of a hardware. So I'll just take an example of a few things here. Something as simple as a TPM, which is a trusted platform module, right? It's extensively used across the industry for storing the critical keys on your platform. And those keys are used for encryption and decryption of your data, right? And if your encryption and decryption is not fast enough, or if it is not protected enough, your whole data is basically open for anybody to compromise it, right? So we make sure that our enterprise class platform has a TPM by default built inside it. So people doesn't need to worry that whether the TPM is there or not. So that's one example. The second, which I was telling you earlier, also a protection of a bias, right? It's becoming so critical to go and protect the hardware of your PC, because hardware makes the build for the trust for the whole PC, right? Your whole applications, your OS are running
Indeed,
on the
indeed.
hardware. So we want to make sure the hardware is protected. So we have put something called a hardware shield, which not only protects your BIOS, it also makes sure that your OS is putting up on a clean OS, clean hardware. It also makes sure that your other critical components of the PCs are also secure. So all this effort is done in collaborations with OEMs and then ISVs like Microsoft. Actually, the Microsoft Defender ATP, which is their an antivirus software built inside the operating system, do go and utilize all these capabilities of a hardware. So in case you are running latest enterprise grade hardware from Dell and using a Microsoft Windows 10 latest operating system, you're actually utilizing all the capabilities of your hardware without even you realizing it, because the softwares and the hardware are working in tune to make sure your platform is kind of secure enough.
That is so true. And that pretty much is what we have time for. But Rajendra, I must come to you with one very important question.
Sure.
If you were to kind of use today as the baseline, and with the benefit of hindsight, what would be your one biggest prediction on security for the times to come?
I think probably we all know that security probably is going to gain a much bigger mind share of all the CXOs in the environment which are moving ahead. At the same time, I'm pretty sure the attacks are going to increase and going to become more and more sophisticated. So it's always going to be a race between a police and a thief kind of a scenarios, right? At the end of the day, who wins, the technology is going to decide it. But we are going to put as much as efforts from our side to make hardware as more secure as possible. I'm not sure whether you heard the recent announcements what we did recently with the BlackBerry to counter attack the crypto mining threat in the PCs. And then we introduced a new technology called Intel CET as well, which is going to be a part of our future platforms. So you'll see a future innovations coming up in the field of security. Uh, uh, but again, at the same point in time, the attacks are also going to increase and become more
Absolutely.
sophisticated.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rajendra. It was nothing short of a delight speaking with you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Arjun. Thank you very much.
And for the audience, stay tuned. We're going to come up with a live poll, post which I, Arjun Vishwanathan, will be live to take any questions that you may have. Gentlemen and ladies, that was Rajendra Bedi from Intel, India and APJ. Thank you for staying tuned. Be with us. Thank you, Rajendra. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for the live poll and the Q&A session. Hello, this is Arjun Vishwanathan. I am now live and very happy to take any questions that anybody may have. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you, Mr. Arthanishwaran. We value your feedback. Folks, we had a small challenge with the platform, which is why we weren't able to run the poll. But I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. How much, so Dinesh Rana asks me how much work from home will be degraded after COVID-19. That's a very interesting question, Dinesh. We haven't, I think, as a global civilization, come to a point where we can look at a post-COVID kind of concept. But what I think you must take lessons from industry is the very fact that this situation or the disruption has brought and made very real the fact that humans, employees, and organizations can be productive irrespective of geography, space, and time. Therefore, I don't see a degradation as much as a symbiotic balance between working from offices and working from home, continuing to remain for a long, long time to come. And plus, the other way of looking at it is also that organizations are also realizing today that huge rentals that they're paying for office spaces and so on and so forth may perhaps not be required or could be optimized to the point where work from home could become a serious reality in our lifetime. Twitter, for example, has already said that they will enable work from home permanently for all their employees, those who may choose to. And increasingly, you're looking at organizations that are also saying, is a 3-day at office and balance 2 days work from home kind of logical? So I think it's going to stay. How it'll pan out, of course, remains to be seen. Thank you, Mr. Shetty, for your kind words and remarks. Folks, I must urge you to kindly fill up the feedback form once the session is done. Your feedback helps us enhance and improve future sessions, content, and essentially allows us to bring to you that which you want to hear. And that's essentially how we look at it. Well, the time is 12:40 as we speak. And therefore, thank you very much, each of you, for joining us in the audience. Our next Digital Dialogue episode will air on Tuesday, which is the 30th of June. Stay tuned. Our team will come to you with the necessary registration links, as well as the details of what episode 6 is going to be about. Thank you. This is Arjun Vishwanathan signing off. Stay safe. Have a great day. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of episode 5. Thank you for attending today's episode, and we would request you to please do take a few minutes to fill up the feedback form. Stay tuned at the same time next week for the next episode of the Digital Dialogues. Thank you and good day.